Hey everybody, welcome to the Groow Zone. We are here again, excited to be with you. Of course, you know by now if you've been on this journey with us, I'm Keion. If you are new to this journey, that's exactly who I am, and this is my wife,
Shaunie.
and we are excited that you are with us. And let me say, if this is your first time with us, stay on the journey with us, because we believe that if you give us several weeks of your life, we can change the rest of your life in the Groow Zone. And if you've been with us the entire time, thank you for being on the journey. And make sure you tell somebody about what us Groow Zoners are doing together. So
I like that.
you like that?
Zoners.
Groow Zoners. We got to get that T-shirt.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything, I put an ER or something
Everything.
on.
So how was your weeker?
My week has been amazing.
Mhm.
It's been a good week. What did I do different this week? I'll try to come up with something I did different this week. Didn't add working out to that week.
We ate dinner with a new couple.
We did, it was actually a very nice dinner, by the way, because I think I'm a little more selective on my company than you sometimes. So
You say that, but you selected them.
No, I know. So I had a good time at this particular dinner.
Okay.
Because sometimes when I don't select, I don't have a great time. But I pushed through.
Okay, so basically you're taking the credit for selecting good company.
This week, yes.
Okay.
You do select good company sometimes.
Okay.
I think we share, right?
Yes, we do
Have
share.
I had bad picks?
Yes.
Okay. We'll talk about who later.
No.
I would like to know.
No, we're not.
We're not? You're not going to tell me?
No. So today what I'm going to talk about
I tell you.
is aligning our families and our values, and in particular, Black families. Like, we are a culture in and of itself.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of nuances in the Black family that we know that are not in others. Like, we have so many rules.
We really do.
Like, what goes, you can finish this. Because when I preach, I'll say something
And
I know.
and everybody can repeat
said,
it,
I said, oh, your mama knew my mama?
Yeah.
So what goes on in this house?
Stays in this house.
See, we just got these nuances.
First of all, that was big in my house. My mother she was not playing about talking about our business outside of the house. And it was like, she didn't threaten us or anything like that, but it was a thing. You knew not to discuss our business outside of the home. So it was almost like when I was an adult, my life was almost a secret. But it wasn't a bad secret. It wasn't like we had these, horrible secrets in the house. But it was like I had 2 half sisters. Nobody knew that. They just didn't know my life for real, if that makes sense. And it was just because we weren't allowed to talk about it.
What was the consequences in your house for breaking that rule?
I don't know. I never broke it.
So you were so afraid to break the rule, you didn't break the rule.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I was not, and not that, she was like, my mother, I probably got a whooping in my life maybe twice ever.
Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah, listen.
You didn't get enough whoopings. You got away with too much. I got 2 whoopings a week.
But I heard you acted up.
But I heard you did too. So I'm trying to figure out why the whoopings didn't match up with the acting up.
Oh yeah, my parents weren't. They didn't have to whip us. We wasn't doing nothing to deserve whoopings.
I didn't deserve all the ones I got either.
I believe you.
Yeah, I think my mother sometimes, I was the only boy. And I saw my sisters get away with things that I couldn't get away with, which is another rule in the Black house, that young men tend to think that it's their job to be the man of the house. Right? So my mother was divorced, and I thought I was the man of the house, which when she tried to date, I felt like they had to come through me, and I'm 8.
Wow. Yeah.
Because she told me
you were the man of the house.
I was the man of the house. I wonder, does that happen in other dispensations, in other ethnic cultures? And do you think that happens?
I don't know if I hear that in other cultures. Like, if there's no dad, you're the man of the house. I think that even with me, I used to tell my boy, I never told my boys they were the man of the house. I would just say, you are a man in this house that needs to do certain things. Like, can you take out the trash? Can you, certain things like that. Or if we go to the gas station, I say, you're supposed to pump gas for a lady, so things like that. But I never put the pressure on them saying, you're the man of the house. But I have heard my mother tell my brother that. So it is culturally a thing. You're just supposed to take on this like, oh, your dad's out of town, you're the man of the house. But what does that mean?
So really, it plays into the topic of values. Like, so
Right.
what do you remember about values being defined? Like, what is your definition from your upbringing of a value?
That's a good question.
Because I remember my mom would tell us these are our values. So the values
She
were,
said that.
she did.
Really?
She'll use those words now. So our family values were always tell the truth. She would say stuff like, and some of these things are inferred values. She didn't always nail down and say this is a value.
Right.
But there were certain quotes and languages that she used. So my mom was a teacher. She still is, right? So she's always in teaching mode. She would say, people don't have to be nice. And when they are nice, they don't have to be nice to you. So appreciate it. She would say stuff like, if somebody does something for you that you didn't deserve or you did, yes, ma'am. No, sir. I get into trouble right to this day because you meet people that are your age and you say, yes, ma'am. No, sir. And they say, don't call me that because now we think it means you're old.
Right.
For me, it simply means respect. So that was just certain things that she drilled in us. And right now, you know, in daycare, everybody brings their baby to my mom. And she promises if they're above 6 months, within 3 to 5 months, that child is going to be walking and not needing a pacifier because she always had these certain things that she instilled in us. So what will, and the lack of judgment. We couldn't judge anybody. If you judge somebody, she get on you because she'd always bring to the fact that you could be judged based on how you live your life. So judge nobody. So what do you think some of the values were?
I don't remember my mother ever sitting us down or not sitting us down and having that conversation or just saying, these are our family values. I think we just had things that were just understood, you know. My mom was very big on us being ladylike. So she was very big on manners. When you go in a room, you speak to the people in the room, you're always polite. If grown folks are having a conversation, you mind your business, stay out of it. Matter of fact, if there's another room for you to go in there. You don't be in grown folks' business. I still am kind of like that with kids. I don't like when little kids are in grown folks' rooms while grown folks are doing grown folks things and having those conversations. But she was very big on manners, very, very big on manners and very big on our behavior. So you weren't going to embarrass her. You weren't going to show out, as she would say, you know, when she wasn't around. So very much, and maybe that's why we didn't get whoopings because we were just always on our best behavior. But and my dad was not opposite. He definitely was into us conducting ourselves in a ladylike way, but he was more of like street sense, and my mom was the book prissy sense, you know. So he was always like, keep your head on a swivel when you out in them streets, you know, you can't trust nobody, like trust no one. So we had both sides. And I don't think I ever heard either one of them say, these are our values. But it was just like the things that were repeated and kind of just embedded in your head growing up that you knew.
Yeah, I think
to
it's like a
do.
synonym because if you're still holding true to them, they are valuable. They're values. And you just express to me everything I see you do. You tell your kids, don't embarrass me in public. You know, being ladylike, everything you name, you do. And I think that this is a perennial phenomenon or like an aha moment that sometimes we think that we are new technology, that we're doing things differently. And all we do is rattle off the things that we were taught and then say, and I'm still like that today. That's kind of but see, we move as African Americans, sometimes we move monolithically. So we all have those same values. You don't find a whole lot of diversity in those values because I'm telling you, we could find 10 Black mamas right now and all of them would say, don't embarrass me.
Right. That's very true. Most of them would.
Yeah, most
but
of them.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I think we definitely, it's just like you said, when you're in church and everybody can finish the sentence for you because we all have been raised almost exactly alike, which is so different now because now you hear parents, these younger parents saying, well, I want, you know, Tim to have a say so in what's going on, or I soft parent, and you're like, No, you need to snatch Timmy up. Like that is not you're not going to have a tantrum in the middle of Nordstrom's. That's just not. You know how you just be looking at parents and kids sometimes like, what exactly? Who raised you?
You know the thing that's really frustrating me right now online?
Cussing kids.
Oh my
I
God.
know
It
it
is
is.
amazing. Like you literally have parents videotaping their 2-year-olds using words that in 5 years is going to get them kicked out of school. And we're laughing about it. And we're saying, say it again for Uncle Johnny. No, don't say it again for Uncle Johnny. Because when you say it in front of Principal Johnny's going to have you in detention. And then mama's going to be at the school fighting against the very thing that they encouraged.
I agree.
I think that we're missing the it takes a village to raise a child mentality.
We are.
Because now the unity and the fabric of the entire tapestry of what we have done has started to fall apart. And it's now like, no, you don't say anything to my child. You say something to me, and then I'll go up there and determine whether or not they need something said to them. Where when I grew up, if I acted up at school, if I acted up at church, the lady down the street could get me together and then bring me to my doorstep and let my parents know she got me together, which provides, now again, times have changed because people
are nuts,
are crazy these days, right?
Right.
And that's universally.
I was just
right?
about to say, did we not have as many nutty people back then?
Yeah, we did, because people just didn't get this way all of a sudden.
Right.
I just think that there was a trust in the earth at that time that isn't today. You know why? Because cameras and social media allow us to see the other side of people that was always there.
Yeah,
people
we didn't
don't
see the
evolve
crazy. Yeah.
that quickly, where the whole race just went crazy in the 15 years it took for me and you from being 20 years in our parents' house to being grown. We don't evolve that fast. But the evolution of technology has allowed us to see the sides of people that we wouldn't normally see. There have always been parking wars. There have always been neighborhood wars. There have always
That
been.
is so true.
We just didn't see it.
Yeah.
And so now we see it.
We see it. Values are changing. All of that at the same time that's a lot. Because I don't know that I would let any of our neighbors correct our kids at this point. Like, I don't know you, man. We don't even know our neighbors the way we used to know neighbors.
That's correct.
Like, I don't know that we might know 3 neighbors.
So maybe it's not, you just bring up a great point. So then maybe it's not the fact that we don't have neighbors who are capable of correcting our children. It's because of this isolated society. We don't know them. And the lack of unity amongst people today has fractured one of the very things that built our nation. Because we are the United States. Right? We're supposed to do everything together. And we've got so much in our history that as Black people, we feel disenfranchised because here we are told that this is a nation that's built for us, but sometimes we don't feel like it. I heard one of the best quotes in my life from Dr. Antipas Harris. I was on a Fox News interview with a couple of pastors, and I used this quote in the book that he wrote. And I also said it not too long ago when I got an opportunity to preach, and you were there getting an award as a powerful young Black woman in America for your business prowess. And I got a chance to speak at the National Action Network. And I said that to be Black in America is to be African with no home and American with no privilege.
You did. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
That's when you dropped the mic.
No, that ain't when I dropped the mic. When I dropped the mic, here, let me take you back when I dropped the mic.
Okay, let me tell you. Tell me.
I went through this thing about how Al Sharpton, who's one of our nation's leaders in the African-American community, one year he was stabbed. A man tried to kill him. Now, one of his litany of things of thanking God that the blade wasn't sharp enough to kill him, and the blade wasn't sharp enough to keep Tyler Perry out of entertainment. The blade wasn't sharp enough to keep Robert Smith out of the Billionaires Club. The blade wasn't sharp enough to keep Denzel from the Emmys. And I went on this list, and then I said, somebody should have told America, once you go Black, you never go back. Then I dropped the mic. Then I walked off.
That was a great moment, by the way. It was a great
I still remember it.
We're always going to remember that moment. Because I clutched my pearls in a good way, because I was like, did he just drop the mic? And not only did you drop the mic, you walked off. Like, away. We couldn't even see you no more.
I went back there and sat with Mr. Sharpton, and he came back there because they were playing the organ. And so then the Black church experience started, and he was trying to pull me back out there, but I didn't come to do that. I came to speak to Black America, and I left because one of the things that happens with us as Black leaders is that we stay around too long, which is why they become common
Ooh,
with
that's
us.
so good.
There
That's so
always has
good.
to be
Yeah.
a separation between the authority and those who follow it, because the moment we get comfortable with our leaders, then we expect something out of them, and then we forget that they're leaders because we see the personhood, and once we see the personhood, we can't respect the leader.
But that was good what you said, like we stay too long.
We stay too long.
We do, like in positions, because
We
it's
stay
so
too long.
title driven. We're very title driven, and we will stay there till we die, even if the system has changed, the patterns have changed. We're not trying to look to evolve in those spaces. It's like, nope, I've been here. This is what I do. I've been doing this long and have control of the people in whatever position. It's just one of those things where we do stay too long, and it causes us not to evolve as quick as we possibly can, because there's some folks that just won't get out the way.
But then we have to ask the question, where do we get our values from? So that's the question. Where do we get our values from? Because we could look at the egg, but you still got to investigate the chicken. Where do we get our values from?
Yeah,
where do we
we?
learn to parent from? Where do we learn to do business from? Where do we learn our politics from? So we got to find out where we learn it from, because if we start with the knowledge, then we'll always be behind. You always have to start with the system. Where does it come from? And then you have to look at it as like, okay, well, what part of this can I contribute? Because we're not going to change the world. You change the world by being effective in the part of the world you've been given. Your children, your husband, your wife,
so true.
your job. So we always, and this is something that Black people do. Why do we always feel like we have to defend the whole race? We always feel that way.
We always do.
We always feel that way,
Yeah.
like, oh, you're embarrassing all Black people. One person ain't embarrassing all of us. No more than one person who's Caucasian embarrasses all Caucasians. But we came over here on boats together. We were redlined in districts together. We all live in certain neighborhoods, and so we don't know anything outside of us together, because we all end up going to the same schools. You'll have a school that's majority Caucasian, but it's not called a white, historically white college.
Right. It's
just a school. But when we get together, there is something about us getting together where we have to always add Blackness to it. Historically Black college.
Yeah.
Can't just be a lot of Black people in it. It has to be a Black college. Why do you think that is?
I was about to ask you.
I just think that we're always looking for identity. And I think that because we don't know our grandparents and our great-grandparents and our great-great-grandparents, our lives literally started with our mama's mama. Just think about it. I don't know where my great-grandfather came from. I don't even know what he looks like. And yet some of my Caucasian friends, they can tell me where their 7th removed grandfather was born and what business he started. I don't know.
Because it's been passed down.
Something
else we don't have very
We don't
often.
have nothing to pass down.
Right.
Because this is an old African proverb. We have nothing to pass down because they say we as African Americans, we eat our dinner in the morning. And so when it's night, we don't have anything to eat. What do they mean by that? Cars, clothes, interest-bearing things, too many liabilities, no assets. And then we get to the end of our life and we have nothing to leave those who have been waiting on us to show them the way. Like, we don't recognize our real power.
Right.
We don't recognize our real power. That there are more African-American millionaires now today than there's ever been in the history of the world. And we have trillions of dollars in spending power. And yet we don't earn, or we don't save, or we don't have what other ethnicities have. And
that's because we weren't taught to.
Let's go back to where we get our values from. Where do we get them from?
I think it's learned. You get it from your mom, your dad. Same for me. It's just learned. And where did they get it from? So maybe the saving and the spending and the investing and all that kind of stuff, my parents just didn't have that knowledge to give. So therefore, we joke about it all the time. Like, listen, I didn't come with nothing. You know what I mean? Nothing was passed down.
Right.
I don't. And there are some families. I always am so proud when I hear of another Black family that there's like, oh, I inherited, this land from my grandmother or my mom or my dad. I'm like, really? That is so awesome, because that is rare.
Mm-hmm.
That you will hear that. I think I have one girlfriend, and she will inherit her parents' home and maybe another property, which she is probably the only friend I have in my little friend circle of 20 years that has something to be passed on.
Yeah, well, so the conflict of our plight can either do two things. It can either create dissension or it can create opportunity, right? So I'm proud of us because while we look at what we consider the curse, there's a crack in it, because you and I just sat down last week and created our trust.
Yep.
So we can't speak as if we are in the same position as a community. There are people watching us just like you and I,
right,
who said, oh, no. As for me and my house,
right,
we're going to the next
it
level.
stops here.
It stops here. And that's something that we ought to just all be saying together. It stops here.
Right.
Like, it stops with us. It stops with me.
Yeah.
So what things do you think, if you look at your girls and your sons, what are the things from a value perspective that you hope that they learn and pass on to their children?
I definitely want them. I always say I'm trying to leave a legacy for my kids. I want them to take that in as well. I want them to continue to do that for the next generation and next generation. Like, I always tell my kids, take care of each other. There's 5 of them. So make sure you take care of each other. We were talking earlier about how Black families, it's like we can talk about each other, but you can't talk about us.
Mm.
That's a thing. And it's crazy because when we were saying it, I was like, I think I've never told my kids, or I've never allowed that to be okay. Because I'll say, y'all can't fight each other. You all have, but you sure can't let somebody else come in and fight. So I think I'm opposite of that. But I have heard that in my life of like, we can talk about each other, but ain't nobody else out there can talk about us. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to our comedians today, just think about it. Comedians today, Black comedians, can make fun of every white person in the audience, and we just go to laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Let a white comedian get up.
Ain't having it.
And say to all of the 3 Blacks in the room, it's all of a sudden,
you can't do.
Why is that though? I'm not saying we should do it. I just want to know what it is about us that we can dish it but can't take it. I just want to know.
And I'm guilty of it, because I wish a white comedian would. I'm that person.
Let's just think about, why is that?
I don't know. I just feel like you can't do that.
That ain't a good enough answer, though.
You just can't.
But that's just not a good enough answer.
It's probably not.
Because if we don't, we contribute to our trauma. And like you, I feel like if I was in the room and the comedian started to go at Black people, I'm like you. I would be like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So I understand it. I'm trying to maybe give answers to people who are like us, who would be offended. But why are we offended by that?
I mean, maybe it's because we're not equally globally celebrated, right? So it's not, you have a lot of successful other nationalities.
Correct.
Black folks don't have as many. So we haven't made it to we're not on the same level for you other
So since we're behind, leave us alone.
Listen, you can't say that. You just cannot. When we get to that same level, maybe so. But we're not. We have not, quote unquote, arrived. And there's just not enough of us being celebrated on the level of, other nationalities to where I feel like they can jab.
That is a great answer. I think one of our friends was talking to us about the concept of respectability politics, and how as African Americans, we are traditionally and historically marginalized, left behind intentionally. I was looking at an article the other day that talked about how the African Americans, how we moved from the Reconstructionist era to Jim Crow, and how the new Jim Crow is, the different lunch counters. And Jim
Yes.
Crow was basically, for anybody who's listening, Jim Crow was when it was actually legal to be a segregationist. Like, you had to publicly refuse to serve black people in restaurants and all that. And so now we can go in any restaurant we want to.
Kind of, no.
Right?
Right. Pretty much.
You should be able to.
Correct.
And if you are allowed to go in, you still feel tension. Every black person knows what that feels like.
You might not feel comfortable, but you can go.
And here we are walking in, can afford everything everybody else can afford in there, but we walked in a jogging suit, and everybody's looking like, do you belong? And I don't know if it's the jogging suit or if it's the real suit, but that's left for another episode and conversation.
Right.
But so you and I, we're in this world where we have diversified people on every side of us, right?
Right.
We've got white friends, we've got black friends, we've got Latino friends. Isn't it true that when we get in those circles, we always feel like we're catching up, even if we're ahead of the people who we're in the conversation with?
That is absolutely true. But I think it's because we are fighting perception every day. Like,
I go deeper there.
Like as Black people, we're fighting the perception of what a Black person is in their eyes every day. So you go in these rooms and you know that they're thinking, oh, he probably is a rapper and he's going to come in here.
Who you play for?
You get that all the time. What team you play for, guy?
Hey, tell him what I said the last time on the plane.
Airport.
Oh, yes,
your basketball.
Which team do you play for? I said the Rockets.
And nobody dribbles like this, sir. So stop.
One time, you remember the guy said to me, he said, what do you do? Are you a rapper or are you a basketball player? I said, no, I'm a brain surgeon.
You did.
Remember I said that?
You did.
And he was like, a brain surgeon? I was like, I can't be a brain surgeon?
Right. We're always fighting misconceptions and false narratives. Always. I mean, it is proven every day. Where do we go and somebody doesn't ask you if you play basketball? Where do we go? It's just, you walk in those restaurants and you're uncomfortable because they immediately get uncomfortable.
Correct.
With a misconception of what you represent.
And here is the beauty, though. The beauty is I look at that as a challenge to create a new narrative and to leave every space giving somebody else something to think about us.
Right.
I'm going to respect you. I'm going to tip you properly. I'm going to speak to you properly. Everything's going to be clean and in order. And you know this, even at hotels, I literally, and this woman laughs at me, y'all. I literally clean up after myself in hotels because I know people are coming in that room knowing Black people were in it.
You do. I mean, not that but your cleanup is so, it's like.
Let's talk about it. What I feel something brewing here about what you think. And just real quick, 30 seconds. Don't go on a tangent because we don't have all day.
I just feel like our hotel rooms stay fairly nice. Like, we're not junky.
Yes.
But even in that, you still will go back and fold the towel on the counter or take the sheet and put it back up. It's just a little excessive, just a little. It's just, sir, they're going to take these sheets off, we hope, and put on new ones.
We hope, because we know they don't always.
We don't know what they do. But it's okay. That towel is actually used. They can't use it again, so you don't have to fold it back. You know what
why?
I mean?
It's crazy. I feel like I'm doing it for the culture.
Wow.
I'm doing it for all Black people. I'm serious. I know that they're going to come in that room, and I don't want to contribute to the misconception that we don't know how to keep our stuff. They talk about how our neighborhoods look, right? How our streets look, how our grass. I'm going to be the guy on the block who has the greenest grass, because you're not going to drive past this Black house and say, oh, there's a Black person. It's the reason why we're spending money at this church right now to put bushes and flowers out, because I want to raise the perception that people have it as us, and not to log us into this monolithic perspective. This is my contribution to the extended Black family, if you will, to all of my brothers and sisters all over the world. me as an individual, I want to contribute to the dismantling of that negative perception that's been there for so many years.
Right. So it literally every day we are fighting the false narratives. It's just, it's not, we don't even think about it, that's what we're doing. It's just a part of what we do, where we're always trying to prove that there are levels to us. You know what I mean? We got hood, but we also have some extremely successful Black folks out there.
That's
and
good.
We are always fighting to show, listen, we're here. You know, this is a diverse community, and it's hard to get them to see that. It's hard, really hard to get
I
them
was
to see
so afraid one day driving. I was driving your car when you had the blue truck.
Yes.
I had Sharif, Shakir, and Greg in the car with me. And we were driving after I drove them to basketball practice. Okay. And we were leaving basketball practice. And, you know, Sharif, he has 10% skin and 90% tattoos. Okay? This man's entire body is covered in tattoos. Sharif, that's him. Shakir, a tattoo here and there, you sprinkle. They got the windows down. They don't have any shirts on. And I'm driving in Texas. And I'm scared to death because I know that when people see Black men with tattoos, they see thugs. When they see other people with tattoos, they see art.
That's so true. That's so
true. And
I
thought, oh my God, a police officer is going to pull us over, assume that there are 4 drug dealers in this expensive car, and we're going to be another statistic. And it may not have been true, but here I am telling the boys, put your arm in that window, roll that window up, sit that seat up straight, put a t-shirt on so we can get home. That's how we have to live.
That's scary. That's so scary. What's scary about you telling this story is that if you weren't in the car, they're doing that, not even thinking that way.
They have no clue.
Right. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, so these are California kids, you know, driving around like that in LA is normal to them. But being in the state of Texas, and it should, I mean, I guess even in LA, it still could be a thing, but that's so scary that is how they have to think. You know, and that is the conversations that we have to have with our young men now of protecting themselves just on how everybody else thinks. And I think that that's a consistent conversation. I remember when Miles started driving, I used to explain to him, like, be careful, you know, like if you ever get pulled over, make sure both of your hands are on the steering wheel, like make sure they can see your hands at all times. Don't argue. So it's all these rules. Now it's Sharif is grown. He has 1 million tattoos. Now you look like this. I know you're a good kid. You've never gotten in trouble. Don't give us any problems. But the perception of you could be something else. They don't see how tall you are in the car. They don't know to put basketball in there. They don't know what all those tattoos mean. You are a whole gangbanger because of it, just visually. But the thought that we have to have these conversations and you got to think like that and explain it to them is so scary to me.
It is frightening. And it's Texas, it's LA. Ask Rodney King in the 91 Ross Riot. It is our plight. And Sharif and I'm none of the kids are disrespectful, but if there is one of them that is the most respectful, it is him. And yet he can be judged from a distance because of the art he has on his skin, where it's celebrated in other places.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why, getting back to the topic, maybe that's why we are disunified in the areas of business and other cultural phenomena. But when it comes to trauma, seems like that's where we all come together.
And we protect each other.
There is unity there. And maybe that's why the comedian can't get on the stage and say something about us. Because it's triggering something. You don't know what What I mean, does that resonate
makes
with
sense,
you?
because I'm gonna protect you, Black man, Black woman, in that trauma.
At all costs.
Don't play, because she or he has been through similar to what I've been through. It's like, yes, we become protective of each other in that space.
And so that's the extended Black family.
Yeah.
And that's the vision and the diversity and all of the other alliterations you could use. I think this has been a great conversation.
I do too.
I think it's been a
That's
great
actually
conversation.
very interesting that we got to that point, that we do become very unified in the space of trauma.
Yeah, I think it is good for us as Black people to reevaluate our position and our values based on where we currently are, because although we are not where we were, we definitely are not as far as we should be. And I think that it is the job of all of us right now who have strength in our bodies to keep fighting the fight, to keep pushing, to keep exposing ourselves. Don't get locked out of rooms. Get the education so you can walk in the door. Don't be just happy to be in the room. Learn while you're in the room. Take notes so you can come back and tell people who've never been in the room what the rules of the room are. We have a responsibility, and we can't be ashamed of our Blackness. Let me tell you what my mother, here's another value. She says, you are no better than anybody else, but you're no worse than anybody else. No matter what anybody says, you have a right to be here just like everybody else.
There it is.
All right?
You dropping
So,
the
hey,
mic?
we're going to end it right there, Mama?
You dropping the mic and
I
walking
can't.
out?
It's being held.
You want to walk out?
I'm out of here, man. Listen, thank y'all so much for being with us on another episode of the Groow Zone. You have been an amazing conversationalist today.
Why, thank you.
We've had a great time today. Hopefully something was said today. This is one I think you need to sit the whole family down and rewatch it again and again.
And have a discussion after this discussion.
Have a discussion after this discussion, because it ain't over.
No.
It ain't over.
This is an ongoing conversation, but I do think that families can take this as a start and sit down with their own families. Go over what your family values are as a family, what seeds you want to plant in your children that they can plant in their children, etc. But even as a society, just it's so many conversations we have to have as Black people amongst ourselves, and just educating our children on how to adapt to this world as it's changing, and in some ways not so great. Some are very scary, but it's a conversation that has to be had consistently, and it's going to consistently change just based on the fabric of the world and how it works. So,
you heard it. The whole world is the Groow Zone.
Yeah.
See you next time. We love you.